Okay, we've got these negotiations going on over the weekend. If there's disappointment with it, we could see markets sell off Bitcoin in the stock market with futures opening on Sunday. If there is positive development, then maybe we go a little higher with Bitcoin in the stock market. We've got the 100 period moving average directly overhead on Bitcoin. You'll see that shortly. Stalling at the trend line of resistance in the falling price channel right now. If there's any signs of disappointment or further tensions. And again, Hormuz is not opened up. Iran is capping off the amount of vessels to 15 that can go through it per day. That's not what the ceasefire agreement was. So there could be some real conflict here. We'll be watching. Is there a positive outcome of these negotiations over the weekend or a negative outcome, which could rattle markets further? Watching this closely. Now, Bitcoin was up 1.64% on Friday. Again, pretty much flat today, rallying into this trend line, 100 period just above it. Resistance zone from the April low at 74 to 76,000. That is directly overhead. The cloud, which I'm going to show you in this video, at these levels. So again, we'll see if we turn surrounding these levels. The 100 period has acted as resistance after we peaked. It acted as resistance here. The 150, it acted as resistance right here. The 100 period, the pink line, it acted as resistance on January 14th. This is why I told you we were going to rally to it, and then I called another top for a lower high peak on January 14th because I'm a big believer in the 100 period moving average. Maybe we make it to it. Maybe we fall short of it. Maybe we overthrow it a little bit. But again, 100 period moving average is resistance here. And we are in a falling price channel. We're rallying up into the 100 period, a declining 100 period, into resistance in a larger falling price channel, the downward trend line in a larger falling price channel. Price channel that I predicted when everybody said, no, we have a breakout. We broke this channel, this downward trend line, and I told you this falling price channel was expanding into a larger falling price channel. Channels expand all the time. Now, after the rally on Friday, Bitcoin is currently down 0.11% right now, just pretty much flat. Again, I think you're getting this right shoulder. It might evolve into a 3 drives to a high in this larger bear flag pattern. But again, as I've said, that I think we are going to get this right shoulder. We are getting the 50 crossing back above the 200, and that's because we're going sideways. But you can clearly see the possible head and shoulders within the bear flag pattern. The right shoulder, if we set up a lower high at the trend line of resistance, which is what we're slamming into right now in the daily time frame. Bear flag is a continuation pattern. Again, we could see rejection at the trend line and a lower high established lower than the 76,000 peak, which was at horizontal resistance in the daily time frame. This bearish divergence, if we overthrow the trend line, you've got the 100 period moving average directly overhead in the daily time frame. MACD's got a little divergence going on here now and rolling back over here. So you've got these divergences in the 4-hour time frame. So I expect this is going to likely come to a conclusion here, and we'll probably get rejection around the downward trend line or maybe slightly above it at the 100 period moving average. If you can get above the trend line, you got a shot at coming up to this area right here. Again, a 3 drives to a high type of a pattern deeper into the resistance zone between 74,000 and 80,000. I think that's less likely. Regardless, I do think the bear flag's going to play out. We'll get a continuation move down, then eventually bottom out. 4-hour chart of Bitcoin here. Again, sometimes these crossovers, especially when you're going sideways, sometimes they can mark the end of a move. Down here, this bearish cross, it marked the end of this push downward. This bullish cross could mark the end of this push upward. It doesn't always play out that way. When prices start trending, 50 will stay above the 200. When it's trending up and trending down, the 50 will stay below the 200, like back over here in the 4-hour time frame. Go back and forth. Again, the moving averages crisscrossing back and forth. They're telling us, again, what we can see clearly on the chart is that we're going sideways in this bear flag pattern. Again, I predicted back on the 5th and 6th of February, over 2 months ago, that we're going to get this rally back into the resistance zone, moving towards the 50 in the daily time frame. That's happened. We've continued the sideways move after peaking here in March, on March 17th, and a good chance we're setting up a lower high. Now, most of the daily signals are bullish because we're going sideways. We're going back and forth, much like what we had back over here. We're going back and forth, back and forth. So what would be bullish is a breaking of the trend line, clearing the 100 period and clearing the resistance zone and staying above that area. What would be bearish is rejection at this area, either a rally slightly higher into the 100 period moving average now seen here, or a lower high with a miniature head and shoulders pattern and a push down below these levels. You support the channel. Please support the channel with the link directly below. That allows me to be able to provide you this information. If you like the charts, and you will, and if you like the indicators, and you will, then please consider supporting the channel today. If you follow the link below, it'll take you to a secured site. You can donate any amount you want. You take a moment to partner with me. I would really, really appreciate that. I don't have sponsors. You know, the exchanges would pay me a lot of money to send people to the exchanges, but how do I know they're not going to be the next one to go under? How do I know they're not going to get some newbie all leveraged up to wipe them out? I use leverage to trade, but a lot of new traders don't know how to properly use it. And again, a lot of games going on at these exchanges. I just ask that if you like the videos, to please just consider supporting the channel. Anything helps. If you could take a moment after you watch this video to take a moment to do that, I would appreciate it. I thank you for your consideration for that. My trading charts are going back and forth from bearish to bullish. And again, we've got this recent momentum signal here. I told you about that at the time. We've rallied into the declining falling price channel, the upper boundary of the falling price channel. Above that is a 100 period. Got to be able to move above the midpoint of the channel to turn it around, meaning that you have to get back above the 80,000 area and stay above the 100 period if you're going to try to flip weekly signals back to bullish to get a larger bear market rally right now. My guess is you're going to get another push down. Stock market will get another push down, and then I think later, once the stock market has played catch up to Bitcoin and drops by over 20%, then the Fed's going to panic and they're going to do jumbo rate cuts, and that's when I think you'll get the larger bear market rally for Bitcoin. Bitcoin will probably bottom ahead of the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ. Probably bottom out, get a big rally back up, and then get another pullback for a lower or higher low. Well, the S&P moves to a lower low. That's what happened in 2022. So I think you have a bottoming process here. I do think that you're likely going to take this level out. Now, again, most of the daily signals are back to bullish, and that's because we're going sideways. We're rallying into a declining 100 period moving average, rallying into the declining trend line. Clear the 100, clear the trend line, get back above this midpoint area if you're going to try to turn this around right here, right now. It's more likely we get rejection at this resistance area and horizontal resistance at 74 to 76,000, and then try to bottom out. Again, signals going back and forth, showing us we're going sideways at this moment. 60,000 is a bottom. We have to clear this area to get evidence of that and then be able to remain above it. Yeah, signals going back and forth, back and forth. Got a bunch of signals, bearish signals, back on March 17th, 18th, and 19th. And just as I did back over here on January 14th, 15th, 16th, and 17th. So do we get a lower high here or a higher high? But again, the 100 is directly overhead. We're currently at the declining trend line. We may try to push above the declining trend line and even the 100 period, but you got to be able to stay above those levels to turn it around. So again, signals going back and forth, back and forth. But I think we're likely to fill here at this area and turn back down, and then I think we'll turn around. But again, if we're going to turn around, we got to see evidence of that in the weekly time frame. And right now, I've seen some momentum signals turn back to bullish, but you got to see the trending signals validate this. You got to be able to clear the areas I'm talking about. resistance zone, the downward trend line, the 100 period moving average. It's more likely we get more volatility and then try to rally if once the Fed panics. Bitcoin will probably bottom ahead of that just before the S&P and NASDAQ bottom. So I still think we're likely going to get another push down. But again, daily signals back to bullish, have been bullish, really reflecting the sideways move that we have right now in that it's forming a bear flag. Back and forth, back and forth. We're flatlined right here, going back and forth from bearish to neutral to bullish. It's just showing, again, we're going sideways, much like what we had over here. Well, we're starting to turn bullish. Well, we started to turn bullish over here, and then we dropped 39%. So again, we need to see evidence. If 60,000 is the bottom, we need to see evidence of that. And right now, we see evidence that we're going sideways. At least that's all we have so far. Going sideways, forming a bear flag. In the weekly time frame, I think you're likely going to see diversions develop, dropping into the 200 and the 300 week moving average back into the support area. I think that's likely. Daily chart, just going back and forth, above and below the 50 period, just signals turning back and forth. Awesome oscillator going back and forth. And again, we can clear the declining trend line, get back above the 100 period not seen here. I'm showing you in this video. That's a sign of strength, and then we need to clear the resistance zone if this is going to end. Get validated by some of the weekly charts and the signals in the weekly time frame. Rejection at the downward trend line or rejection surrounding the 100 period, then again, these lows will likely be taken out. Signals are just going back and forth. Bitcoin spends a lot of time going sideways. Weekly chart. Zoom out. Amazing signals. Got a warning sign here recently, but I told you could see multiple signs like what we had over here. Multiple signals. First one showing up when I called the bottom there on February 6th. I told you February 5th and 6th we were going to rally back up. We did. Back over here on January 14th. Just some of these other signals over here. And these signals mark short-term price fluctuations where turning points could happen. Often they mark major turning points. Sometimes you see multiple signals form. We still may see that. So far, all we're doing is just rallying into this resistance area right here. The resistance over here, the support here. Again, all this now becomes resistance. If we get rejection, then this lower end of this trading range then comes into play. We did see some momentum. We did see some momentum signals in the weekly time frame turn bullish, like right here, but the trend is still down. Again, you can see momentum turn bullish and still end up going lower. Momentum bullish, still end up going lower. Sometimes the signals mark turning points like the top and the bottom. Other times, the counter trend rallies. Over here, we had this rally, but it failed. We had the rallies, but it failed. Over here, rally, but it failed. So while we've seen some momentum signals in the weekly time frame turn bullish, we need to see evidence with the trend changing. We need to see some of the signals turn back to bullish that will mark a larger counter trend, a bear market rally. Rejection here and a move to lower levels is still likely and could create a bottom. We found support at the 50-week moving average, the green line right here. Now we took it out. We confirmed a bear market November 23rd, 2 consecutive closes below the 50-week moving average, and now the 50-period moving average is turning down, holding below it. Momentum line here still bearish. The cloud is still bearish, but momentum for the short term giving us a bounce. The trending signals in the weekly time frame are still pretty much, for the most part, bearish, but we did get some bullish momentum signals. None here. Signals called the top, the very top. Bars turned red. They've been red ever since. I had some amazing signals form right at the top in the daily and the weekly time frame because I have good indicators. Got to come down and break the trend line here. Had signals go back and forth. Some signals have been bullish longer and just again going sideways. Here I'm looking at momentum rather than the bigger trend. I generate more signals looking at the short-term price fluctuation, so you get a lot more signals. Here again, right after the peak, signals turn bearish. The counter trend enter signal here, but I still think you're likely going to end up forming a divergence down here on a lot of these weekly charts. Seeing momentum signals turn back to bullish, but the trending signals are still bearish. Here, just looking at momentum. Now, momentum may last a little while, but I'm not looking at the larger trend here. I'm looking at these shorter term moves in momentum. Here, short-term momentum still positive. We're at the downward trend line and approaching our 100 period moving average. As we're at the downward trend line, I'm getting another signal today here on Saturday. Got one last Wednesday, and again another one here. I told you sometimes you get these back-to-back signals. This is just looking again at short-term momentum, short-term price fluctuation. Sometimes they mark turning points. When I called a bottom over here on the 6th, we had one. When I called a top over here, one formed. When I called a peak for January 14th, we got one right after that. And again, back-to-back signals, back-to-back signals, back-to-back signals. You could see it here. Trend line or try to make it closer to that 100 period moving average. The final print here today will not be until the close, which we have several more hours left in the session. I think the bear flag will still play out and will get rejection either at the downward trend line or the 100 period moving average and horizontal resistance, either for a lower high or a 3 drives to a high pattern as I've talked about. So if we do start to turn, I'll be looking for other signals. Nothing here yet. Again, just going back and forth sideways. Weekly chart, again, we have momentum signals turning bullish, but the trend is still bearish. Here, the bars are just going back and forth from bullish to bearish. Again, looking at momentum. Here, the momentum signal, not a major bottoming signal, but a bullish momentum signal back up, very similar to the ones we had back over here in the miniature relief rally. Major sell signal at the top. There's no major bottoming signal yet here, but a bullish momentum signal has given us this bounce. It's back and forth in the daily time frame. Some momentum signals have turned bullish in the weekly time frame, but the trend is still bearish. Weekly, back and forth, chop in the daily. Chop in the 4 hour. Chop intraday here. Signals back and forth, chop. Back and forth, chop. Now, again, we've seen in the weekly charts, bullish momentum here. Bullish momentum, trying to get it right here, right now. Well, we had that back up right here. Bullish momentum here. We saw the momentum line turn back to bullish, the bar turn back to green, but it marked a peak and a reversal the following bar. And we had a 39% drop. So we've seen momentum signals. Some momentum signals turn bearish. But again, I got to see evidence of a bottom. I see no evidence of a bottom. I see momentum, a bounce. Momentum shifted the week of the top. Sell signals followed. The sell signals remain. Had bounces along the way with momentum turning back up, but it reverted back to bearish. Likely see the same thing here and bottom around the 200 or 300 week moving averages. Or just above that 200 week with our 60,000 low. Weekly chart, again, the 200, 300 week moving average key support. The black is the 200, the red line here, the 300 week moving average horizontal support. These are the levels I'm looking at. Bitcoin trying to bounce off this area, the upper end of this trading range, and these previous highs in 2021. This was support right here, but we broke it. It's now resistance. And again, we've moved into this support area, but we're coming back up into this resistance area. The highs over here, the highs over here, the low here. If we can't clear it, then the 200, the 300 week moving average come into play. Our 38.2 Fibonacci is at 56,724. Our 50% retracement is at 44,000. If we get rejection, you'll likely try to bottom around the 200 or 300 week moving averages. Well, some momentum signals have turned bullish in the weekly time frame. The trend is still down. We had the reversal signal right at the top. Right as it happened, bars have been bearish ever since through all the counter trends. We're in a longer-term bear market, as I've said. It'll probably go into 2027, May, June, July, August, something like that. If the 4-year cycle breaks back to this trend line, as I've said, everything that I've predicted about the top, the sell-off, the counter trends, the rallies, the resumption of the downward trend, everything that I've said has happened. Eventually you get a bear market rally, a big bear market rally. This probably isn't it. You'll probably bottom around the 200 or 300 week moving averages, and then eventually that will fill and you'll move lower. Eventually going back to test 15,000, either a higher low above it at an 80% drop on 25,000, that's an 80% drop, or a 90% drop would take us down to about 12 or 13,000. This trend line could be pointing to the bottom. This trend line could be pointing to the bottom. Down 12 or 13,000, a 90% crash. That's outrageous. That's what Bitcoin does in bear markets. Drops 80 to 90%. So why is this time any different? Why is that so outrageous? You're on a steady diet of perma-bull propaganda. A confirmed bear market, for goodness sakes. And any rally back up is a bull trap, even the larger bear market rally. Is this it? Maybe, but I see no evidence of that. I think it's more likely you're going to bottom around the 200 or 300 week moving average and then get a larger bear market rally. Now here's that chart that I just showed you with the black background. Here it is up close. Bars turned bearish the week of the top. They've been bearish ever since. So again, if we're going to get a bear market rally right here, right now, we need to see some evidence of that. So far, I don't see the evidence of it. See a bear flag rallying into the declining trend line of resistance towards the 100 period moving average, which is declining. Clear the trend line, clear the 100 period, see some real evidence if this is a tradable bottom here and not just a bear flag continuation pattern. My balance of power is still negative in the weekly time frame. Trending signals are still bearish. There's no evidence of a bottom, at least not so far. We turned off the major resistance at the top, as I warned you back in October. And going into the top, I warned you of the risk of a top and called a top and predicted this crash. I was correct. It will go down to the 200 and 300 week moving averages here and tag them and try to bottom out and get a bear market rally. Again, this is what has marked all the bottoms right here, so it will be believed that that's it, it's over, by the people that never saw the top and never saw the crash coming. Eventually, I think we will get a bear market rally, but then come back and take out the 200 and the 300 week moving average and end up moving towards 15,000. So I still think we reached the 200 and 300 week moving average before bottoming. But weekly signals are still bearish. There's no evidence of a bottom yet. My weekly charts are all still bearish right here. Last time we reached the trending dots, we got rejection there. Here we are just underneath that area. But I'm bringing out all these weekly charts to show you the weekly signals are still bearish. Momentum in the weekly time frame has turned up, but the trend is still bearish. Now here we had a topping signal at the top. I warned you about this at the time. Again, these highs were pointing to the next high. I warned you about this over and over again. Major resistance in the weekly and my monthly time frame. Bars turned red the week after the top, after the warning sign. They've been red ever since. There is no bottoming signal here. Zero, zip, nada. I still think it's likely we're going to go down to the 200 and 300 week moving average. This trend line, I told you, could act as support. We reached it with the bottoming tail, but I warned we could still violate this area and then jump back above it, this trend line right here, before getting the bigger bear market rally, which I think will be surrounding the Fed doing emergency jumbo rate cuts, which I think is coming once the stock market drops by over 20%. Bitcoin will likely bottom before the stock market, though, with this next leg down. Don't see evidence of a bottom in the weekly time frame. I see momentum turning bullish in the weekly time frame, but not the trend signals. So I still think it's likely we tag the 200 and 300 week moving average before getting a bigger bear market rally. Bitcoin's flat right now. The RSI's moved back in above 50. We've rallied into the declining trend line. Our 100 period is directly above that. The upper boundary of the bear flag above that. Deeper into our resistance zone between 74,000 and 80,000. I told you when I predicted this rally that, again, 74 to 76,000 would likely hold as resistance, but the larger resistance zone is between 74,000 and 80,000, the low over here. Remember when everybody was calling the 80,000 as the bottom, and I told you in every video, 80,000 is not the bottom, and I told you the weekly charts told me 80,000 was not the bottom. Right now, I don't see evidence of a bottom yet, but that could change. I'm open-minded to that. I think it's more likely you get another push down and then get a bottom. I am actively looking for a Bitcoin bottom. That doesn't mean I think Bitcoin's going to go make new highs, that the bear market is over. It will be believed that it's over, but I believe you're going to get a powerful bear market rally. I think that what will cause that is the Fed doing jumbo cuts, the Fed panicking. So I still think you're likely in a bottoming process and we'll get another push down. I think the downtrend is still intact. MACD's turned up. If we do go higher, maybe you get a divergence right here. If you go up into the 100 and overthrow it and hit this trend line and go deeper into that resistance zone I talked about, then maybe you get a divergence right here. But if you get the head and shoulders, as I talked about, remember I talked about over here, rallying back up and getting a right shoulder, that pattern that Jay Moran had pointed out to me, and I shared that with you. Told you he very well could be right, or we could see it evolve into a 3 drives to a high. But again, you're likely going to get rejection at this resistance area. The stochastic has become very overbought again. You're likely going to see it roll over and turn around this trend line or just above it at the 100 period moving average and probably see another push down to trigger all these stops and take them out, as I've talked about. Again, Bitcoin spends a lot of its time going sideways, the topping process, then we trended lower, then the counter trend rallies, the back test with the final exit point with the right shoulder, and then the breakdown, the back test there, the push down, the trending move, and then again turning back and breaking the support level, and then coming down, we hit this low, we back tested, and then we broke it. And then we rallied back to it. Then we got rejection there, and then we broke down below this trend line. And these lows took out the low that was formed here and came down. Now we're rallying back up to these levels. So again, what was support becomes resistance. Got a boatload of it here with a bear flag. So again, this bear flag is likely a continuation of this move down here, of this previous decline. But that will likely mark a bottom. So again, you're coming into this major resistance. We already hit it at 76,000. Horizontal resistance, the cloud, the upper boundary, parallel boundary to the bear flag, overthrowing the 50 period moving average just under our 100 period moving average. So a boatload of resistance. If I bring it up close, you can see it. Again, another false breakout right here like we've seen. Back over here, like we saw back up the top. Saw back in August, like we saw back in January of 2025 at the peak there. Bitcoin gets these false breakouts. Now, do we get a lower high here, or do we try to push up into the trend line and the 100 period and maybe overthrow this area? Possible, but we're at that declining trend line. We had the rally yesterday right into that declining trend line. So again, got to be looking to see if we get rejection there. If the talks over the weekend are productive, then maybe markets can continue to rally. But if there's disappointment, if the Vice President J.D. Vance comes out and expresses disappointment with the talks, then again, markets can be rattled by that. We do have the moving averages going back and forth. The 10 and 20 got back above the 50 here, dropped back below it. Now, again, the moving averages here are just realigning. So that, again, tells us we're going sideways. a push, a breakout above the trend line, above the 100 period, that's going to be bullish and likely flip a lot of the weekly signals. Rejection here at the cloud, just under our 100 or at it. Resistance areas, again, and pushing back below this trend line, that would be bearish. I expect you're going to see the stochastic likely roll over either Sunday, Monday, or Tuesday or something like that. Could do it at a little bit higher levels, or it could do it, at the 100 period there, or at these levels at the trend line of resistance. Again, there's some real problems. Those that continue to tell us everything's a bottom and hurry up and buy the dip all the way down, the dip that keeps on dipping, have a real problem. Again, we've lost Bitcoin's average price here in the daily time frame, and it's flattened out now, pointing downward. This is what happened in the last bear market. Eventually, you rallied towards it and ended up trying to get back above it. My guess is you're going to drop down further and then do that, rally towards Bitcoin's average price. The two important things to note here is that we lost Bitcoin's average price. Again, we were holding above it and finding support at Bitcoin's average price, like the 50-week moving average. You got above it over here, and then you held above it through the bull phase. Now we've had a change of behavior. We've taken out Bitcoin's average price, moved back after dropping below the 100 period, the pink line, back testing it. We took out Bitcoin's average price, tried to bounce off of it. It failed. And then we rallied back up, tried to move towards it, and we stalled at the 100 period moving average. And that's currently where we're at right now. It's directly overhead, the 100 period moving average. I'm a big believer in the 100 period moving average. Now, the 100 has crossed Bitcoin's average price. And again, this is what we've had here before. So either we're going to get a bear market rally now with 60,000 holding, which again, I think is less likely, or you're going to get one more drop into key support, then get a larger bear market rally. I think that will be the case. I think the larger bear market rally will come when the stock market plays catch up to Bitcoin, which it's doing, and the Fed begins to panic. Stock market's gotten the 2-week rally that I predicted back on March 27th, 28th, and 29th. I got it. I told you it would go a little bit lower on my Ron Walker channel. See my latest video on the stock market. I'll link it at the end of this video. See those charts, but again, got the rally I predicted that would happen, and I believe we're going to see the selling resume. I said we get a 2 or 3 week rally. This is week number 2 now for the stock market. Bitcoin's come up to major resistance and towards our 100 period moving average. Again, if we get rejection there, then be watching key support. Eventually, we're going to try to move back towards 97,900, which is this lower high that's set up in the counter trend with the miniature relief rally. I think the rallies are going to be bigger with Ethereum and Bitcoin once we bottom. But again, I'm the guy that predicted 60,000. I don't think that is the bottom. That was my minimum objective target. I was predicting 60,000 when everybody was calling for Bitcoin 200 and 250,000 by the end of the year. And again, I called a top on April 6th. We have a top at major resistance. I had a boatload of signals flashing. Talked about those signals back then. I predicted we get a 50 to 52% drop minimum objective target. And we've reached it. I was correct. People that never saw the sell-off coming never told us it was absurd to believe that we go to 60,000. Now these same people continue to tell us we have a bottom. Again, my guess is you're going to get rejection under or at the 100 period moving average and drop back down into this area. And then I think you'll get the bigger rally. Probably try to form an inverse head and shoulders pattern in all likelihood, but too early to tell, but I'm just speculating. But if we get rejection here, in order to go higher, you got to get back above the 100 period and stay above it, as we did back over here. After this pullback here, as we did here, we got above the 100 period and you stayed above it. Got above the 100 period, stayed above it. And then the corrective move, you drop back below it, find support at Bitcoin's average price. Here, well, we've taken out Bitcoin's average price, so you've had a change of behavior. So I expect at some point you'll get above the 100 period moving average. If we do that, then maybe we can see evidence of 60,000 as a bottom. But as I've said, I don't see the evidence of that right now. That may change, but I don't see it. So I think it's more likely you're going to get rejection and turn back down and then try to get back above the 100 period moving average. Very similar over here. Again, the rejection surrounding the 100 period moving average. So again, I still think this area is likely to be tested. Now, prim parameter has turned back up with this rally, just as it did with the last rally, with the miniature relief rally, as I call it, back up into the 100 period. And then I told you on January 14th that we had peaked. I told you my signals turned bearish January 14th, 15th, 16th, and 17th. They were right yet again. I told you here I thought we had a peak on March 17th and March 17th here, and my signals turned bearish March 17th, 18th, and 19th. If we get a lower high, it will be validated if we take out the support zone areas. I think you'll end up seeing a divergence in all likelihood develop here on prim parameter, just still in the negative region. Eventually, when we get the bigger bear market, whether right now, if we see evidence of that, or later, you're going to move up towards the center line like we did over here, and that will mark the bear market rally, moving back towards Bitcoin's average price. And here we've had a change of behavior. Again, moving towards the center line, we firmed up and found support at Bitcoin's average price, and that gave us the uptrend here. We had a change of behavior. We lost the center line. We lost Bitcoin's average price. We dropped below the 100 period moving average, dropped below Bitcoin's average price, and then the 100 dropped below Bitcoin's average price. You've had a change of behavior. So again, we'll see if we get one more push down, or if we can get above the 100 period and break the downward trend line, stay above the 100 period, then maybe you get the larger bear market rally right now, and we start seeing signals validate that in the weekly time frame. But right now, I really don't see the evidence of a bottom. That may change, and if it does change, I need to change with it. Right now, we have a bear flag going into a declining 100 period moving average. That's what we have.